Knowing how to overtake in F1 2021 largely comes down to a simple concept, and that is the concept of lanes. Just like on the road outside your house, there are multiple lanes that a car can go down. Each of these is about the width of a car, and when you head into a corner, your approach will differ depending on what lane you're in. For the purposes of this guide, I'll simplify it down to two, the inside and the outside. The inside lane is the one closest to a corner. You take the shortest distance around the corner, but have to take it at a lower speed. The outside lane lets you go faster around the turn as it's not as sharp, but the downside here is that you need to travel a longer distance. There's one ideal line to take through a corner, which is a mix of these two lanes, and when you battle with another car, you're both fighting to get that faster line. Assuming you're travelling at the same speed, the lane you choose going into a corner will decide whether you take the lead or not, so let's send it up the inside first. The easiest and most common way to make a pass is by taking the inside line through a corner. Not only is it the shortest distance around the corner, but you also force your opponent to take the outside line, and if they're not prepared to do that, they'll be slower. On the straight, use any speed advantage you have to get as close to them as possible, and be side by side before you reach the braking zone. Next, pay close attention to their car and brake ever so slightly later than them on the way into the corner. That should give you enough of an advantage to pull ahead and take the apex. The braking phase is the most important here. You want to brake later than your rival, but not so late that you'll overshoot the corner, giving the place back. The easiest way to think about it is this. Pick out the braking point you would normally take through that turn if you were on the outside of the corner. This is usually at the 100 meter board. Now, consider that you are on the inside and have to slow down even more. Therefore, you need to brake slightly before the 100 meter board to make the turn. If you do this, your opponent needs to brake ultra late to keep up, which is rather difficult to do when they can't cut into the apex because you're already there. What do you do if you're on the outside though? Hit the like button and let's find out. If your opponent knows how to defend well and is holding the inside line, you'll need to get the elbows out and hang it around the outside. This tactic will only work if your opponent is sticking to the inside line. If they track out wide on the exit, you won't have room to get by. As your opponent is on the inside, they're going slower through the turn and also braking slightly early. What you want to do here then is hit your normal braking point, which should be later than them if they know what they're doing. From here, try to carry that extra speed around the outside of the turn and stay side by side with them all the way. If they know you're alongside, then they have to stay on that slower inside line through the exit phase, or else they'll crash into you. Meanwhile, you can put the power down early and get ahead on the straight. This kind of pass is much riskier than the inside pass, as you're relying on your opponent to give you room. Only attempt it if you've been following them for a while and have a sense for how much space they'll give. Sometimes, however, you need to break out the more advanced tactics, so let's look at one of those now. When the easy stuff doesn't work, you need to break out the big guns, and that's where the Switchback Pass comes into play. This technique is especially useful on somebody who isn't used to driving on the inside line, while also not giving you enough space to take the outside line. For this, start on the outside like before, but instead of staying there, keep a very close eye on your opponent. If they're going to overshoot the corner, quickly turn in tight and steal the inside line. They've already compromised their line through the turn and are stuck on the outside, and if you do this right, you should sail right on by. If they get the braking right, however, or panic and park the car on the apex, the inside will be blocked. This leaves you with nowhere to go, so think very carefully before committing to the switchback. Again, read your opponent and decide ahead of time if it's worth doing. If it's not and you still can't get past, it's time for the Galaxy Brain tactic. Sometimes, the best way to pass is to not pass at all. That may sound strange, but if you know you're faster, simply following closely will put a lot of pressure on them. Get up close to your opponent, about 1 to 2 car lengths behind, and simply follow them through each corner. Your constant presence in their mirrors will constantly distract them, as they don't know when you're going to make your move. If you keep your pace up over a lap or two, they'll eventually crack and make a mistake. When that happens, strike swiftly, get the pass done, and never look back. Once you get ahead, staying focused and knowing how to defend will help you keep the position. Check out the guide on screen now to get started, and I wish you the best of luck in your next race.